there was only a man left in the world. He lacked of nothing, except a girl beside him. Story happened at 2021. That time, epidemic destroyed global. Through 1 year, teenagers, do you feel scared? Main actor, Phil drove his car around American. He used 18 languages screaming hello repeatedly. Although he had gone 50 states of America, he couldn't see anyone. He was very hopeless. So he had to come back to Tucson on his own. He wrote on the roadside sign Tucson still had life. The last man in the world. Part 1. Phil thought that this world has already perished. He went into a building and opened the door. He got some pictures of Picasso, Van Gogh, Da Vinci from the museum and hanged them around the wall. Their value was at least few billions. He also brought the fossil dinosaur head on the desk for decoration. Having been busy all day, Phil still was very excited. He said to the god that he was living very well. On the second day, he started enjoying his life. When he was hungry, he went to supermarket, was eating while going for a walk. Suddenly Phil saw a spiritual dish indispensable. He took all back home. On the way, he saw a beautiful mannequin. He looked from top of bottom, started some nonsensical thoughts. Because he hadn't seen any girls for a long time, so he wanted to find pleasure. Just playing bowling was boring. Anyway, there was only him in the world, so took some lights and aquariums out to beat for fun. His pleasure was so simple. At last, he put dynamite on a luxury car and got 2 cars as bowling balls. 2 cars crashed into each other. Phil felt so glad, cheered himself up, but after that he felt so lonely because that fun had no one to share. So could Phil anyone? Please watch the following part. The world was experiencing a global epidemic. There was only a man left. At night, Phil watched a film Nomad Life on the Island. Main actor in that film was stuck on an island. He was so lonely that he only could talk to a ball. Phil smiled. He found out it was so silly to talk to a ball. A year had passed. Phil has a birthday alone, but he didn't admire, said loudly to the god that he could live alone very well. 5 months passed. Phil was increasingly bored. His house was so dirty with rubbish. The toilet was also broken. There was only the pool to use. So Phil made an open toilet himself to save time and effort. Phil was so untidy, rough although he had a bath frequently. Phil poured a lot of delicious wine into a large tub, so he could use a straw to drink while he was having a bath. That may be the most luxury water to bath in the world, but Phil still was unhappy. So, he went to a bar club, found some friends to confide, but all friends were shapes. He really needed a person. At last, Phil found the mannequin before to confess. Having confessed, Phil kissed her. Unfortunately, Phil dropped the arm of her. Suddenly Phil came back in reality. Phil was aware that he was lost the god on that bet. He was defeated by loneliness. The next day, Phil left on a large rock the last words to say goodbye to that lonely world. He sat in the car and rushed forward. But before rushing into the large rock, Phil hurriedly stepped on the brake because he saw the smoke from the kitchen in the distance. So he gave up thinking of suicide. He got into the car to probe what had happened. He came to the place where had smoke. There was a trace of human. Phil was so glad, because he hadn't seen any women for a long time. While he was in ecstasy, the girl's voice echoed in the back. Phil was so excited that he fainted immediately. After he regained consciousness, a beautiful woman was in front of her. It would be so perfect if they became a couple. While he was in miscellaneous thoughts, beautiful face of a girl suddenly became an old woman. Phil started and shouted loudly, pissed wet his pants. The woman didn't understand anything, so Phil tried to say that he hadn't wet his bed, but the more he talked, the more he incited, threatened the woman to take out a revolver. At last, Phil had to admit, after that, they all kept calm. The last man in the world met the last woman on the earth. They shook hands to make it up with each other. After that time, Phil proposed to her and they married. The task of maintaining the race had to be given to them. The film was named The Last Man on Earth. Above is the content of the first part. The whole film is very interesting, so please watch the movie. If you were the last person on Earth, what would you do?